Have you ever stared at the ceiling at 2 in the morning, watching the shadows stretch across the room while your mind races through a million worst-case scenarios? You are completely exhausted, your body feels incredibly heavy, but your brain just will not shut off. You toss and turn, desperately hoping for sleep, but it feels completely out of reach. What if I told you that the exact remedy for those midnight spirals is actually hidden in a simple, powerful prayer written thousands of years ago? I remember when my own nights felt exactly like a battlefield. A few years ago, I was going through a season of intense, overwhelming uncertainty. My job was unstable, my finances were an absolute mess, and I felt like I was carrying the heavy weight of the entire world on my shoulders. During the day, I could fake it. I could smile, drink my coffee, go to work, and act like everything was perfectly fine. But the night was completely different. The moment my head hit the pillow, all the daily distractions faded away, and the loud, suffocating voice of anxiety took over. I would lie there in the dark, calculating bills, replaying awkward conversations from years ago, and terrifying myself with things that had not even happened yet. I tried everything. I tried drinking warm chamomile tea, listening to rainfall sounds on my phone, and reading incredibly boring books, but absolutely nothing worked. I felt so isolated, wondering if God was even paying attention to my silent panic. It was not until I stumbled upon Psalm chapter 4 that everything finally shifted for me. I realized I did not need a better sleep routine or another calming app. I needed a completely different perspective on who was guarding my life while I slept. The first profound truth we find in this passage is that God actually hears you when you are in distress. Psalm chapter 4 verse 1 says, "Answer me when I call to you, my righteous God. Give me relief from my distress. Have mercy on me and hear my prayer." Notice how David does not start with a perfectly polished, deeply theological introduction. He does not try to sound like a perfect Christian. He just cries out. He is desperate. When we are lying awake at 2 a.m., we often think we need to have the right words to pray, or we feel intensely guilty for being anxious in the first place. We think we do not have enough faith. But David shows us that raw, unedited honesty is exactly what God wants from us. Think about a toddler who wakes up from a terrible nightmare. When they cry out for their parent, they do not compose a formal speech or apologize for being a bother. They just yell for mom or dad. And what does a loving parent do? They rush in immediately. They do not judge the child for being scared of the dark. They offer warmth and comfort. God is exactly the same way with you. He isn't sitting up in heaven rolling his eyes because you are worried about your mortgage or your health again. He leans in to listen. The word David uses for relief literally translates to making a wide space in a tight place. Anxiety makes everything feel incredibly tight and suffocating in your chest, doesn't it? But God promises to step into that tight, constricted space of your overthinking mind and create beautiful, expansive room to breathe. The second truth to anchor yourself to tonight is that your peace doesn't depend on your circumstances changing. Look at Psalm chapter 4, verse 7. It says, "Fill my heart with joy when their grain and new wine abound." Now, to truly understand how powerful this is, you have to know the historical context. David wrote this psalm while he was literally running for his life. His own son, Absalom, had betrayed him and was actively trying to steal the throne. David wasn't sleeping in a comfortable palace with royal guards outside his door. He was out in the cold wilderness, surrounded by enemies, totally unsure if he would even live to see the sunrise. Meanwhile, his enemies were celebrating their victory. They had plenty of grain and new wine. They were feasting and enjoying life while David was fleeing in terror. Yet David says, God has given him more deep joy than his enemies have in their absolute best days. Isn't that incredible to think about? We so often tell ourselves, I will finally be able to sleep when the medical test results come back, or I will stop worrying when the money is securely in the bank. We constantly tie our peace to our problems being solved. But David found a supernatural joy that bypassed his circumstances completely. It's like finding a deep, quiet anchor in the middle of a raging hurricane. The storm is still howling around you, the waves are still crashing over the boat, but underneath the surface, you are held perfectly firm. God offers you a peace that simply doesn't make sense on paper. This brings us to the deepest, most powerful point of all, and this is where the real mental breakthrough happens. Psalm chapter 4, verse 8 says, In peace I will lie down and sleep, for you alone. Lord, make me dwell in safety. This is the absolute climax of David's midnight prayer. Notice carefully that he doesn't say he will eventually sleep once the danger has officially passed. He says he will lie down and sleep right now, right in the middle of the active danger. Why? Because he realizes that true safety isn't the absence of danger. True safety is the presence of God. When anxiety keeps you awake, it's almost always because you feel like you have to hold your entire world together. You feel like if you stop thinking, if you let your guard down and actually allow yourself to rest, everything will completely fall apart. But David is making a profound declaration of surrender here. He's saying, God, you are the night watchman. You are the one keeping the universe spinning on its axis. I don't have to stay awake and manage the world anymore. It's such a beautifully vulnerable thing to fall asleep. When you sleep, you are completely defenseless. You are giving up all control. When you close your eyes at night, it is an act of deep, profound faith. You are trusting that the God who created you and loves you is staying awake so you don't have to. You can officially clock out for the night because he never slumbers and he never sleeps. Your overthinking isn't protecting you. God is. So how do we actually apply this ancient wisdom tonight when the anxiety tries to creep back in and steal our rest? I want to give you 3 highly specific things you can do right now. First, stop fighting the intrusive thoughts and start naming them to God. Instead of staring at the ceiling feeling overwhelmed and paralyzed, whisper exactly what you're afraid of. Say, Lord, I'm terrified about this upcoming bill, or God, I'm so worried about my